Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. We are recording this session, just so you know, and that way those that aren't here can watch it after. We appreciate you joining today. And as people join throughout, the session, we'll allow you to ask questions. So feel free to raise your hand and put any questions that you have in the chat, and we can answer those at the end of our session. So my name is Yale Scott. I'm the intended parent coordinator at Hatch. My role, along with a few of us, is to meet with intended parents that are interested in going through this journey of surrogacy, egg donation, and signing up for our Peace of Mind package, which includes our clinic relationship with Pacific Fertility Center of Los Angeles. So we won't go into too much of that today because this is to talk about relationships between intended parents and surrogates. But just know, if you are interested in learning more about Hatch as far as surrogacy, signing up to match with a surrogate, finding an egg donor, or working with our clinic in Los Angeles, we will send out a follow-up email, and you can contact me directly to schedule a virtual consult where we can go over everything. Hatch is the largest and oldest egg donor database in the country. And so with that, we have over around 400 plus egg donors at any given time. We also are one of the largest and oldest surrogacy agencies as well. And then we partnered with Pacific Fertility Center Clinic to give a Peace of Mind package to those that are needing a donor, a surrogate, and a clinic. So we are unique in the fact that we're doing that. But I first want to introduce Bianca, who's Hatch Senior Case Manager. She's been a two-time surrogate, and I can say that was us. My husband and I have two daughters, 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old at the end of this month, which, Bianca, can you believe that?
No,
Almost two.
no, I can't.
So do you want to introduce yourself, Bianca, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, like Gail said, I've been a surrogate twice, both times for him, carried both of his daughters, and at Hatch, I am the senior case manager. So as a case manager, I am assigned a case as soon as the intended parents are matched with their surrogate. And then I coordinate everything between the clinic, the attorneys, and getting them all the way through medical screening, contracts, and the pregnancy, and all the way up until after delivery. And if your surrogate is pumping, I help coordinate all of that as well. So I love my job, and it's definitely a full-time thing, but it's one of the most important aspects of that is the communication between the intended parents and the surrogate, which is part of what we help with in case management as well.
Yeah, and one unique thing about Hatch too is all of our coordinators have all been surrogates. So if you were to do this journey with Hatch, you would be assigned a coordinator throughout the journey, which is what Bianca does, along with our team of coordinators. And they're your coordinator throughout the pregnancy. And so the fact that they're that middle person, they are the liaison, they're able to relate to the surrogates in ways we can't because they've been surrogates before. And I think that honestly is probably the best part of our program, is the fact that all our coordinators have all been surrogates. I knew nothing about surrogacy, egg donor, clinic, IVF when we started this journey almost 6 years ago. And with Bianca, we were very fortunate to have been matched with her, and she agreed to carry the second time, but neither of us worked in this field. And so I can speak for both of us to say that now this is our passion. And it's pretty amazing that we're able to help people go through this journey. So we are coming to you as two people that knew nothing about the process. I know Bianca knew a little bit because she had a coworker that had been a surrogate. And obviously you're a mom, so you had carried 3 children yourself.
Mhm.
But it's pretty rewarding to work in this industry. A little bit about Hatch too is, since we do have the clinic aspect, we have 6 doctors on staff at PFCLA. Hatch is separate from PFCLA, but we are partnering, have office space that shares with them in the clinic by UCLA here in Los Angeles. But our candidates, we are having them be screened now before even sending you in for a match. So whether that's a mock cycle or their uterine lining, we're finding that that's helping eliminate a lot of wasted time that sometimes doctors will reject surrogates when they come in to be screened, and then you have to start the process over again. But we have over 33 years of experience. Dr. Sakian has done this over 10,000 times for surrogacy. Over half of what we do at the clinic is surrogacy fertility. So we're really excited that we can really offer this as a one-stop shop if you need it. But we have a lot of intended parents that come to us just needing the surrogacy journey. So they already have embryos or they're already working with another clinic. And so with that, obviously in that realm and that aspect, we're providing the surrogate, and everything would be coordinated as if it would be if you were partnered with our clinic as well. So we work with clinics all around the country. About 20% of our surrogates are in California. So even though we're based in California, we have surrogates throughout the whole country. Michigan recently changed their laws to allow surrogacy. So we're really excited about that as well. So there are some caution states, there are some really surrogacy friendly states. But with our program, we'll go over a little bit later what's included. But we do include everything except for your clinic costs. So you still would pay your clinic directly for the transfer, for your surrogate to be cleared, her medication. But from there, we take over. So again, Hatch is anything non-medical. So finding your surrogate and coordinating all of that. With our clinic, if you were to work with our clinic, the 82% first transfer rate is with donor cycles. Again, Hatch is the largest and oldest egg donor database in the country. So if you did need an egg donor, our donors range from about age 19 to 29. And so we have an 82% first transfer rate. The nice thing about our program, though, even if you already have embryos created, we do require 2 or more embryos to be genetically tested to sign up for our surrogacy program. But we do include unlimited transfers to a live birth through that. So you still would pay your clinic costs each time. But with that program, we allow unlimited transfers and unlimited rematching. So if you were needed to be rematched with a new surrogate, you stay at the top of our wait list for that. So surrogacy right now, there is a wait nationally at most agencies. We're at about a 10-month wait. With this process, we'll go over at the end of this common pitfalls and the aspect of being patient. But with surrogacy, we're really strict about our surrogates. We only take about 5% of applicants, and we have an extensive application process and lots of calls and lots of Zooms before they're even being presented to our intended parents. So we're pulling their medical records from their past pregnancies, because to be a surrogate, you have to have already had a child before. And we're also having them meet with third-party psychologists. And there's a whole list of things that we're doing before we're even presenting you a match. So the nice thing about it is by the time we get to that point, our team prides itself in the fact that 9 out of 10 times we usually get that first match right that we send you, because we've gotten to know you, we've gotten to know the surrogate. But this is more about the clinic. And these are our doctors on staff. If you were to ever have interest in doing a virtual consult with one of them as well, in the follow-up email, you can ask for that and I can coordinate that. So I'm going to hand it over to Bianca, and she can talk about perspectives from an actual surrogate.
Yeah, absolutely. So most surrogates, we kind of go into who we are. Most are in their mid to late 30s, under 32 BMI, since that is most clinics' requirements, anywhere from 30 to 32. Educated, of course, minimum high school diploma up to even some have master's degrees. We have a lot of nurses. And like Yale previously mentioned, you do have to have at least one of your own children. Some even require that you're done having your own children, but having that history, make sure that they're aware they can get your records and know that it was a healthy pregnancy with no complications and a healthy delivery. So on top of that, medical history, it's important that surrogates have a safe, stable living environment. So as he mentioned, we also get, home tours of our surrogates here at Hatch just to make sure they're in a safe environment. And a lot of surrogates are really in this for really the end, like to see that baby go home to their parents and get to see that beautiful moment. So we're very humanitarian, caring. I feel like I see a lot of surrogates that work in like service industries like healthcare, or they're stay-at-home moms who their whole focus is taking care of their family and they want to help you have that as well. Some are single and they have support systems with their family and friends. That's another important requirement that we have for our surrogates to make sure that they have, not only just childcare for the appointments, but the emotional support. And if there were any issues where they need somebody to drive them to the hospital, they have that. So we make sure that they're going to be a good fit for you and safe during the entirety of the pregnancy. Some are also married and depend on their partner. That was me. It's me, my husband, and our whole bunch of kids. And Yale was a huge support too. We'll go into what our journey looked like a little more later on, but surrogates are also allowed to kind of consider what they want in their IPs. So for us, it's really important that, of course, you're kind, you stay in touch, you show a lot of appreciation, and you're very supportive. I don't feel like that's something we really have to say because I think that you naturally already are. Most IPs, honestly, all IPs I've ever met are. And we know that it's a very long journey for you to get to the point once you're matched. It's not like you just thought about doing surrogacy the night before and you signed up. Most IPs have been through a lot, not only medically, maybe themselves, or just the process of egg retrieval, getting an egg donor, creating the embryos. It's a very long journey. So while there's going to be a lot of concerns that you may have, it's important not to put those on your surrogate so that she can have a stress-free pregnancy and just focus on showing your appreciation, love, and support. Again, is going to be extremely important. We, as the agency, actually kind of ask you to put your stress and concerns on us. So micromanaging the journey is something that I know we want to try to do, but the more we try to control, the more out of our control it feels. So Yale will go into that a little more about how everything happens when it's meant to. I think our journey kind of is a good example of that. But really just going with the flow. It's called a journey for a reason, and it will be great. And at the end of it, you will have your baby. And that's an important thing to remember. If you have questions or concerns, it's really important you bring that to your agency if you are working with one, your case manager, and they will help take care of answering those for you, or discussing it gently with your surrogate in a way that won't make them feel stressed out. So that's what we're here for. Another way that could help you find an amazing surrogate. We always have our IPs write a Dear Surrogate letter, which is really fun to read. It just goes into maybe a little bit of your history, what you've been through, and maybe how you guys met, if you're a couple, the process you've gotten to up to that point, your hobbies, what you enjoy doing, things that will let the surrogate or prospective surrogate know who you are or who you are as a family. And yeah, like it says, lots of pictures and showing different things that you guys enjoy doing will make it easier for the surrogate to decide if that would be a good match. So, as a surrogate, I became a surrogate because I've been extremely lucky and I did have very good pregnancies. I actually prefer being pregnant. I feel so much better. And I had very safe, easy deliveries as well. So that's super important. I feel like most surrogates are kind of in that same boat. You wouldn't want to be a surrogate if you didn't enjoy being pregnant. But ultimately, and the biggest reason was because my husband and I, we have 5 kids. So, life is busy, but it's also really fun. And I couldn't imagine life without them. And I just, knowing that there are people out there that have to fight so hard for that is something that just spoke to my heart. And I wanted to be able to, if I could carry everyone's babies for them, I absolutely would. I would. I want everyone who wants kids to be able to have kids. So I'm extremely happy that I get to, now that I'm no longer a surrogate, now I still get to work in the field and help families like you grow. And what I loved most about it, I feel like Obviously, my relationship with my IPs, because here we are, we're still in close contact. We're going to Sutton's birthday party here in less than a month. And we've gone to other, the birthday parties for Steady and Sutton throughout the years. Initially, I loved getting to see the whole in my mind, when I was pregnant with my Surro baby, I was just dreaming of the day that I deliver and baby goes straight into their arms. But now that I've completed that step of the process, I still love what I did because it has so much meaning and I get to see these girls grow and they just have such a special place in my heart that like it's not like my own babies. I know everyone worries and wonders if surrogates feel like a connection. There is a connection, but it's not like it is with your own children. It's like a really proud aunt or, like watching these girls grow up and seeing you guys as a family is just priceless. It means the world to me. Um, and then the least favorite part, I think I could speak for almost all surrogates I'm going to say the injections. Doing daily, possibly sometimes 2 times a day injections can be really hard. But as the agency, we give our girls lots of tips and tricks to make it as easy as possible. I personally was taken really good care of by my intended parents. I remember one day I had a hard injection day, and I didn't normally talk to you guys about how those were going, but it was rough. I hit blood a couple times, so I actually ended up having to inject, I think, 3 times. And you guys sent me coffee and donuts, and it made it so much better. But yeah, the injections are probably the hardest part. It is a very lengthy process, but with the right support, it makes it worth it.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that.
Yeah.
But even like I know you mentioned heartburn one time at an appointment, and we went on Amazon and ordered you like an organic heartburn medicine for
Yeah.
pregnant.
I know
And
it
I
was.
forgot we ordered it, and the next morning you were like, "Did you send this?" Or that was
Oh,
like before AI was a thing, but you probably were like, "Who is listening to me
you
say
were
that?"
always so on top of things. Like I wouldn't even notice or like I wouldn't be saying something. It would just be casual conversation. And then next thing I knew, you had sent me something to help with this or that. And I was just like, oh my God. I loved it. If I was like maybe a little nauseous one day, you guys would send us dinner. And it was so helpful and thoughtful. Yeah,
Yeah.
it meant a lot.
Well, it's the least we can do. And with this program too, a lot of agencies are great about that. But we have someone actually that handles just gifts for our surrogates. So as an agency, we also provide, gifts along the journey. But we always encourage our attendant parents, if they can, to do things like we're mentioning. Um, and then really just keeping in touch. Obviously, our case and situation is a little bit different. We're not saying that everyone's going to end up working together at a surrogacy agency with this. But even before that, because I started working at Hatch and then we were hiring for a position like this. So I asked Bianca, would you be interested? And she had worked in even medical background as well. So understood kind of the big picture of how things work, even with insurance and billing and the big picture. But with keeping in touch, it can be honestly what you want it to be. So we have some intended parents that you might just send photos on the milestone days, 1 month and 3 months and 6 months, and then there is a chance that you may never speak to her again. She could be on your Christmas card list, or you could end up being friends like we are, or go on family vacations. We have one of our coordinators that she's been a surrogate 3 times and still is really close to one of her families and they go on vacations. Sometimes, like Bianca mentioned, the surrogates love going to baby showers and things like that if logistically it works. So this relationship can be what you want it to be. The beauty of it, though, is it can evolve throughout the pregnancy as well. It is kind of like dating. You're not sure what to ask on the first date. The first time we met, we were fortunate to actually go to dinner together. We met kind of near where Bianca lives, went to Olive Garden. And at that point, Bianca had, I think Alexis was 9 months old. And so that to us was important, but not everyone has that luxury. We do an initial Zoom with our match team. And that always is really helpful too. If they're married and have a support system, they're usually part of that as well. But optimal communication with your surrogate, what can it look like? As I mentioned, it can look different for everyone. Um, you know, things like, what are you up to this weekend? It doesn't have to be just about the pregnancy. Of course, during the pregnancy, keeping in touch, even if you're, in line at the bank or at Starbucks or something like that, and you're like thinking about her, reach out, is there anything we can do for you? How are you feeling? Of course, the journey as a pregnancy goes is different at all different stages. So, hearing the heartbeat is amazing, usually around week 6 to 8. And then the 20-week anatomy scan. That's really when it's real because you're looking at the baby and they're measuring, the arm, the legs. And of course, once it gets closer to the end, the weekly appointments, we understand all intended parents can't make all of the appointments, especially if we have international intended parents. But our surrogates are really good about, either FaceTiming or sending videos. Um, but of course, regular communication is key. And so with our surrogates, they love hearing your excitement. I know with us, we had things called belly buds that literally it's like two little EKG things that go on the stomach. And we would sing and read books, and it just texts a link to your surrogate where they can play it at night. So the babies can start hearing outside the womb, I think around week 24, 25. Don't hold me to that. But it was cute. Bianca would send us photos sometimes of her at night playing our videos. I swear both our girls knew our voices when they were born. And then supporting your surrogate is like supporting your baby. So, you know, they are carrying your child. They're literally angels on earth walking. And so the least you can do is support them in whatever way you feel you can. So it's not just about tangible gifts or spending money on them, but there are ways that you can support your surrogate. Of course, they make money through this journey, but when you break it down to an hourly rate over starting the medication, even postpartum, stretch marks, all the things that they're dealing with, it is nothing, at an hourly rate. So they literally are doing this to help you with your family and create a family that you wouldn't be able to create otherwise. Bianca, you want to talk about the post-delivery?
Yeah. You kind of touched on that a little bit, and I was going to kind of go over this too and my version of things. So, a lot of IPs I feel like ask me when is a good time to meet their surrogate. If you're domestic and you're able to, we always recommend possibly maybe when they go out for transfer. If you plan on being there, you can absolutely. If you can't make that one, you could also try and go, like Neil said, to the anatomy scan. That's a great time to meet your surrogate and her family because it'll be at her OB local to her, and you'll get to see an amazing video ultrasound of your baby. So those are really good opportunities. If not, show up prior to delivery, usually at least if you're domestic, a couple weeks, if you're international, a month before the due date, and you'll have time to get to know each other and see each other face to face. Keeping the conversations light, keep it social. Like Yael said, it doesn't have to be anything too extravagant, even just letting them know you're thinking of them. Let them know what you did over the weekend and hope they had a great weekend too. It doesn't have to be anything too like in depth. Keep it light, keep it social. We also don't recommend discussing your contract directly with your surrogate. Don't discuss the contract or anything financial, just because it's important to have a really healthy foundation and maintain a really good relationship. So things like discussing the contract or your financial aspect of the journey could complicate that. And then post delivery, I think it's really important to remember you're going to be deep in the newborn trenches. We all get it. We love it. And this is why we did it. But remember to reach out, check in on how she's feeling postpartum. Maybe even just a couple weeks after delivery, just so she knows you're still thinking of her and really appreciative of what she did, this beautiful little bundle of joy she brought to you. And if it works out better for you, you could just do milestone updates, like Biel said, maybe once every month or at 6 months and then 1 year, and just kind of letting her know how baby's doing and how you guys are doing as a family now is extremely important.
Yeah, and I think you had talked about this earlier, but a lot of our surrogates are willing to pump breast milk and send it. So I know with you, you would overnight it with FedEx. There are services that do it. That's also a good way to keep in touch because you're talking about, the journey. And we would get so excited when Bianca would text us and be like, a shipment's on its way. We would always make sure somebody was home to make sure that we could put it in the freezer right away. But that's also a nice way to continue. And this is just kind of some photos of our families when we hung out. Apologize for the relationship being broken because that's not how it looked
It
when.
didn't look like that on this. No, it didn't. Sorry.
But as we mentioned, it looks different for every family. Bianca, we've done some swim days, and she's come to obviously SETI, our oldest baby shower. We had a baby sprinkle slash second birthday for her when we had our second journey, Sutton. I don't know if you saw this picture before, but we were actually together on the way for Bianca to be cleared to carry the second journey. But because of COVID, we really hadn't seen Bianca since. And so this was a really exciting time for us for her to meet SETI for the first time post delivery.
Mhm.
And I will say, our daughter is nice to strangers, but it does take a while to warm up. And for me, I feel that SETI knew immediately that this was Bianca and that she was in her tummy for 9 months. And so you can see just that connection that they had immediately. And I don't even know if I've told you this, Bianca, but a couple of weeks ago, because we do talk about, that SETI and Sutton had a surrogate. Thankfully, in her class, there are three other kids that have had surrogates, so it's an easy
Oh, wow.
conversation to have.
Yeah.
But she told a random stranger that she was in Bianca's tummy. And so I know that means it's setting in. So I think
Yeah.
these conversations you want to have early, so it isn't as awkward later when you have to explain to kids how they were born. There's lots of books now and podcasts and things like that. So the fear of having to worry about telling your children, I think if you just approach it from the beginning, it's better. Um, Daniel, Bianca's husband, was amazing in our journey. He brought in and out to us at the hospital at the birth. We really appreciated his support at home to support Bianca while she was pregnant. I know the second time when we texted Bianca to see if she would do it again, I think I've joked with you, but seeing the bubbles and then you didn't text back, and I was like, oh, I bet she's asking Daniel. And so,
Of course.
clearly the next day she was like, I'll do it. So it was such a relief for us because this relationship is like any relationship, you put time and effort into it. And so for us, we wanted Bianca to carry the second time. We didn't want anyone else. So we were fortunate to have that. But it happens naturally, as I mentioned before. Your friendships can develop over time. So you're not going to be best friends the first day. It's just like anything in life with relationships. And really just being patient. It's the one thing you don't want to rush and cut corners on, as Bianca said at the beginning. Trust the agency. Trust the fact that all surrogates are moms. They've all had at least one child. They've been pregnant before. We do have intended parents that have carried before and aren't able to carry again, and so they have a bond too with their surrogates because they've been able to carry and know what that feels like. But for a lot of our intended parents, that's not even an option, especially for our same-sex couples or even our gay intended parents that are single that go through this journey. So really just trusting the process, trusting your surrogate. And I think for us, we were just going to kind of highlight, how to approach difficult conversations with your intended parents or surrogates. That can go either way. That's why you want a good agency. That's why you want a good coordinator. I know Amanda that works with us always says, let us deal with the yuck and you deal with the fluff. So the goal is, like Bianca said, not to have to talk about insurance and money and those type of things with your surrogates. Let your coordinators do that. Our experience was a little bit different with Bianca because we did have to talk about insurance and money and things like that. We didn't use Hatch for our journey. And I think those were really the only conversations that we hated and dreaded because we saw if you were stressed out about it or if we were stressed, I always would say, if you're stressing, SETI's stressing. So we don't want that. So, approaching difficult conversations, that's why you really want a good coordinator in between that can help you with those questions.
Yeah,
Uh,
I always tell my cases when I meet with them initially, I let them know that that's exactly what we're here for. I speak to my surrogates as a case manager, I speak to them all the time. We get really close. So that allows me to have conversations with them that might be more difficult. And it's not coming out of the blue. So it's not kind of raising flags in their head. It's just another conversation with my case manager. So it's much easier for us to have those conversations and make it look like it's coming from us as opposed to it's coming from you. And you guys will still be able to have that healthy, strong relationship.
yeah, it's like elementary school. Like, will you go tell her, go tell him that
Yeah.
I have a crush on that
It
I'm
is.
mad about this. It's like, yeah, it's just better to let your coordinators deal with those conversations.
Mhm.
Um, And then I know we talked about acts of kindness from intended parents. And then really your surrogate's family perspective. It's important to understand your surrogate's family and their dynamic and the fact that they have their own family, and they're doing drop-offs and sports and things like that. So, realize that if your surrogate's not getting back to you within 2 minutes, via text, it's okay. They're probably dealing with their family, but they're always making sure that they're communicating with their intended parents. And as we mentioned many times, this relationship, will develop over time and will become what it's meant to be. And really, what we've learned through our journey, I know Bianca's kind of talked about what she's learned, but with this, you really want to sit down and figure out what's important to you in your journey with your surrogate, or if you're finding an egg donor or working with a clinic. You really have to also be realistic with your surrogate's requests. So if you're going at it with zodiac signs and things that are kind of unrealistic, it's really setting, kind of a bad taste in the mouth of everyone if you're being unrealistic with your surrogate. Your clinic's going to have requests, your doctor, and us as an agency, if you use Hatch, are really picky about our surrogates and who we choose through the program. But you really have to be realistic with your request and what surrogate you're looking for. Um, this is not a cheap journey. Unfortunately, it does cost a lot of money because everyone kind of has a piece of the pie. Nice thing about Hatch is we have our peace of mind package that pays for your attorney, your surrogate's attorney, all travel for your surrogate, all health insurance, life insurance, lost wages. And again, if you're interested, we can talk about this more in a consult. But all of this takes a while. And so we do ask that you are patient and that you trust your coordinators in the agency. It is the one thing you don't want to rush or cut corners on your future child or children. So we're going to open this up for Q&A. I know that we had, I think, a question pop up there. Let me see. So the first one is, can an LGBTQIA plus couple work with your organization if they have insurance for IVF and IUI coverage? So when it comes to insurance, you're able to submit whatever you're able to submit to your insurance company. Through our Peace of Mind program, it's the insurance for yourself. If you're creating embryos, finding a donor, your insurance probably won't cover any of that up front, but you're always able to submit for reimbursement. We don't, I guess, cover your policy for that, but a lot of employers now are doing programs like Progeny. So we would just always ask that you would contact your insurance company to see if you have any coverage, and then you would submit those receipts afterwards for reimbursement. And then we had another attendee ask, how do surrogacy arrangements happen? So with us, it's a highly curated process. When you sign up, you do a match call with our match team and go over your requirements. We'll also have your clinic and doctor's requirements. And then by the time we get to matching you with a surrogate, 9 out of 10 times we usually get that first match right that we send you because we've gotten to know you, we've gotten to know her. As Bianca said, you'll do a Dear Surrogate letter, whatever kind of you want to do as your pitch. But there's a lot of thought that goes into who we match you with. If you don't get a good vibe, that first match that we send you, you stay at the top of our list and we continue that process until you are matched. But usually 9 out of 10 times, we get that right. And then I know another question we had is same-sex couple or individual wanting to use surrogacy to build a family. Yes, I mean, obviously I'm gay. My husband and I went through this process. I think all of our intended parent coordinators are gay. We're super LGBTQIA plus friendly, organization. So no worries there. We are constantly working with gay couples and even single individuals going through this process. So the nice thing about our guaranteed birth plan is it allows you for the donor, the clinic, and the surrogate piece. Everything is included. Because we really want to guarantee that you'll have a child if you're going through this process. So again, we'll send a follow-up email, and if you're interested, you can have a consult. And then I know another question we got, is there time after the initial Zoom meeting with the surrogate to potentially meet in person? And that's what Bianca was saying. If it makes sense and logistically, geographically, you're able to do that. The time frame would obviously be on you as far as when the schedule would be. But when we are matching you with someone, we want you to make a decision pretty soon, because when surrogates are finally at that point where they've passed all the clearance, they've passed medical clearance, they've passed background checks, all of the things that we do, they're ready to be pregnant and get their medication started, because every day that passes is a day that they're getting older, we're getting older. So with that, we would just have you work with our team on scheduling that that in-person meeting if that's something that you're able to do. And then about surrogate stay, where do they stay? So surrogates all have families of their own, and they're living with their family, doing their thing. So your surrogate is under clinic care, whether it's our clinic or another clinic that you're working with, for about the first 8 to 10 weeks, and they graduate to their doctor. So it's usually the doctor that's performed their past birth or births, but if they've moved or they've changed doctors or need to help find a doctor, we help them with that process. So the surrogates are living in their own environment. They don't move in with you. They all have children and families of their own.
And we get them a hotel room for when they need to go to the clinic for any screening. If they're not local, we'll get them a hotel local to the clinic. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because we do include travel,
mhm,
even, yeah, after transfer day as well, if they're
mhm.
not local. But the nice thing about this is that the travel is included. So
Yeah.
let's say you lived in Oklahoma and your surrogate was in Maine. We don't cover intended parent travel, but we do for the surrogates wherever they're living to go to the clinic. A lot of these appointments, though, can be done locally, like at local LabCorps and monitoring. And again, that's why it's important to pick a good agency, because they're helping with all the logistics and all the appointments. If someone's had a pregnancy and a child, would you still qualify for surrogacy? We actually require a medical need for surrogacy. So if you're able to carry, unfortunately, you wouldn't qualify for our program. We do require a medical need. Um, I think those are all of our questions. Um, but it's been an honor to do this. I know Bianca and I have talked about this for a while. We're excited that we were able to do this. Bianca, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, this was really exciting. I'm glad we finally got to kind of speak together on our relationship and what that looked like, and give others the opportunity to see what it could become. And, it's okay too if it doesn't, like he said, blossom into a friendship. It's okay. Every intended parent is going to want something different for their life, and we can help cater to whatever that may be.
Definitely. Well, thank you for joining. We'll send a follow-up email. And again, feel free if you want to reach out directly, Yale at hatch.us. We've also got Matt on our team think Matt's email is matt@hatch.us. Him and I do the same thing. So one of us will help you with a consult. But thanks again for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.